Hi, everybody. It's me, and I'm here with your favorite Sunday show, every other Sunday show with Sterling. Hi,
Good
Sterling.
morning, everybody. It's
What's
great
the
to be here with
weather like
Linda.
in where you're at?
Say again.
How's the weather where you're at?
Warm and sunny. Yeah, no, I mean, not too bad. It's a temperate day, so no complaints here. That's for sure.
It's supposed to get up to 88, which is better than almost 100 yesterday up here.
Yeah, and we don't have the humidity so bad on the West Coast. Either do you, so it's never usually that bad. Yeah.
Okay, the worst humidity I ever had was when I was in Scotland and Edinburgh, and they don't really sell fans and stuff because they don't experience. I was there, it was 77 degrees and I was soaking wet. I could hardly take it because the humidity was so high.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. I remember the first time I went to Hawaii, and living on the West Coast of California, and I was like, I don't get it because it was so humid. It was awful.
I hate it. I don't go to Hawaii. I've been there three times, different islands. And every time I go, my natural curly hair goes straight up. And I just am uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I love Hawaii, don't get me wrong, but it was just, I get it. If you were living in the Midwest or something, a big change. But if you enjoy, parts of the West Coast of California, Carmel or Santa Barbara or something, then the difference isn't as big when you go to Hawaii sometimes. So
yeah. Okay, my friend, from the other side, does Charlie Watts have a message for us?
He does. He's been around me all week. Obviously he had a kind of an untimely passing. Well, I think he had some kind of headwinds about it. He had some earlier health scares in his life. So, when he finally did pass, that was understandable. But a couple of interesting things. One was he was just telling me that even though he was in the Stones for like 6 decades, that he really still considered himself and fancies himself as a great jazz drummer. So he always kind of kept that as part of his kind of persona.
Wow.
And they also kept him very grounded. And he loved his wife. I think her name was Shirley. Yeah.
Yeah. They were married 50, 60 years.
57 years to Shirley. And so he never really lived the rock and roll lifestyle, so to speak, when he was on the road, because he loved his wife so much. And he was also acknowledging his daughter that was Serafina, something like that. I think Serafina was her name. Saying love to her. But the other funny thing he told me was that, and I think that the members of Rolling Stones will acknowledge this, but he said that he made a joke that when he passes, he's going to haunt them for a few months. Both Mick and Keith and Ronnie Wood, he's actually going to haunt them a little bit. So I guess, in the music industry, everything's a lot of fun. So they can look forward to that.
He felt to me, I know this is going to sound crazy. As you guys know, I never went to a Tom Petty concert or bought an album until after he died, when he came to me. And then I was like a total fan. I've never been 100% into the Rolling Stones. I never got excited about them coming, nor did I go see them play, etc. And I know they're good. I know they're some people's favorite, but he always seems so out of place.
Well, and likewise, I mean, what happened was they had to beg, borrow, and steal to get him in the band, Mick and Keith, because he was a very acknowledged, very good drummer. I think he really came out of the jazz area. So they had to beg him to get into the band. And once he was in, that created a lot of their unique musical styles, a little bit of a jazz underlying beat and a lot of the songs they did.
Oh.
So yeah, he was always, he loved the guys, but he also loved his private life and his family. And
he was very dapper.
Right. Yeah.
And I talked to my friend Tris, who's a drummer in the business. He never got to meet him, but he said the rumor within the business is that the man was a true gentleman.
He was, yeah.
And also best dress. I saw he got voted best dress.
Yeah, very genuinely nice guy. Absolutely, yeah. Always had a good reputation in the industry. Yeah.
And you could tell when they were interviewing him stuff, he wasn't full of himself because he was a stoner,
No, I think he was frankly honest about that. He didn't really want to join the Stones, but he
probably made really good money.
Yeah, and in fact, I'm looking forward to hearing. Sometimes YouTube gets out to the world in various ways, but he did say he's going to haunt Mick and and Keith and Ronnie Wood. So let's just see what comes up after that. That's kind of funny.
Let's see what happens. It's so funny. You would think they'd be the first to go with their history of drugs and stuff. So,
Right. Absolutely.
yeah. Oh, that's a great message. Okay. Will the terrorist attack in Afghanistan hurt the Democrats in 2022? And will it hurt Biden's presidency?
I get a definitive no, but I'll tell you why, because there's a lot of information that's going to come out over the next few months here about what was about to happen and the impending bloodbath and why Biden got us out. So as all this information comes out and things become more stabilized, no, in the long run, it's not going to hurt them. Actually, it's going to work to benefit them, believe it or not.
That's what I mean. I have people writing me left and right. Dear God, Linda, is this affecting, his numbers did drop. I said, don't worry. He's gonna come out of this just fine.
Yeah, the one thing about political numbers, everybody has to be cautious of. They're like the stock market. They do go up and down, and they move on real-time things that occur. But if you look at the long run, it won't affect the Democratic or Biden at all. As a matter of fact, it's going to help them because they'll realize all the lives that were potentially saved in the long run and the war he got us out of. So yeah, it's going to go okay for them.
Okay, good. Are there going to be any major interruptions with the internet or power grids in the next 18 months?
Yeah, I do see two and actually possibly a third one. But these look like they're relatively short periods of time to me. So they're hours, 8-10 hours, maybe a day kind of a thing, but they'll be related to ransomware. So there will be some interruptions. And it looks like there'll be more in the Midwest than the East Coast to me. For some reason, the West Coast doesn't look like it gets affected. But yeah, there'll be temporary and two at least, or three of them over the next 18 months. Yeah.
We're getting a lot of solar flares. Did you notice that?
Yeah, and those occur all the time, right?
Right.
Solar flares occur all the time.
I mean, they're back to back, they're saying.
Yeah.
According to some of the science. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there going to be a fourth wave of the virus? When will the pandemic finally end?
And this question comes up all the time. So I don't know, when persons referring to the fourth wave, I talk about really in terms of what variants are around. So the Delta variant is going to be with us pretty much through the end of this year. It's going to cycle up and cycle down. A lot of the booster shots will be coming out. That's going to help with Lambda. So we're really going to see kind of a long tail, if you will, the lowering of all the risk of all the variants as we get out into next year, the early part of next year. So as we get into first, second quarter, which means by the end of March and the end of June kind of a thing, I think we'll start to see a lot of the variants under control. It'll feel much more normalized. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. We all need to hear that. And listen, Sterling was the one, you guys, that said a second wave was coming. I didn't want to believe it, but
I remember you and I just when it was six or 8 months before it happened, you and I were talking offline, and I said, look, it's coming. But you and I both said, I think it's the wrong time to say it.
Yeah, we didn't want people to be upset, but I, honest to God, didn't see it. You, the one that saw it.
Yeah, and I said, look, it's the wrong time when everybody's going through the first wave. Let's not tell them there's a whole nother one coming behind it. So, yeah.
And that Kid Rock he was up there with that motorcycle gang.
Mm-hmm.
They're all sick. All the band is sick.
Yeah, it was a super spreader event again, like the first time and now the second time. Yeah.
And several people that went on the radio and said, don't get the vaccine. One guy was only 30 years old. And, I don't get pleasure out of the people dying. 30 years old with 3 little girls and a baby on the way, dead.
Yeah. I noticed a number of.
Bad. You really don't want people to do that and suffer like that. So
I noticed a number of conservative commentators have been getting COVID. So hopefully that sends some sort of a message out there to everybody.
Yeah, but the people in office like Trump and everybody, they're all vaccinated. So I don't understand what they're doing anyway.
Right.
Okay, so you answered that. But I just wanted to bring up again that you said something and you were serious about it. So I didn't want to hear it, but you were right. Okay. There was a flying saucer, whoa, near a highway, and it stopped traffic, and spectators parked their cars to take a photo video with their phones. The UFO stayed for a while and then left. Why did it do that?
So that's characteristic of what happens around the world. So that's not a unique experience, but I'll tell you that when you see aircraft like that, a couple things going on. They're doing a survey. Most of the time they're surveying the area that they're around, and it's usually in conjunction with some other governmental agency. And if you see them, it's no accident. So you're supposed to see them. So it's a little bit of a kind of a gradual introduction to what's going on. So it has kind of a dual purpose, but surveying is the biggest reason they'll stay in the sky for quite a while.
You know, I often felt like they can actually read each human being.
Yeah,
Like
that
and they can read each human being.
telepathic ability is the key skill of a lot of ETs.
Right.
Huh?
The terror group ISIS-K just claimed responsibility for the Kabul airport attack. How well organized is this terrorist group, and are there sleeper cells around the world that we are not aware?
Well, there are. The K refers to the region that they're from, ISIS-K. Right now, they're fairly well formed around Afghanistan, and they do have a number of sleeper cells developing around the world. So they're back in a growth mode. So they will be very well organized, along with at least 3 other significant terror groups coming out of Afghanistan. So it's a world threat. And the U.S. will eventually, to some extent, go back into the region, not in full force, but take care of retaliation. So I guess the answer to that question is yes, they're around, they're available, there are sleeper cells, and they're growing. Yeah.
And the Taliban's fighting ISIS-K. They're ISIS-K are the people who are with the Taliban, but didn't think the Taliban was violent enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I see the Taliban kind of going under because these people are going to try to take over.
Well, they're definitely on opposite sides of the fence. ISIS-K and the Taliban, they're definitely fighting. Absolutely. I don't see ISIS-K being able to take over the country. I don't see that happening.
No.
Yeah.
You know why? I saw intermingling fighting.
Right.
Too many chefs in the kitchen.
Right.
Okay, I was just wondering if you see the federal rent moratorium that SCOTUS just reversed being reinstated, or will there be mass evictions?
So what I see on there is that, and this is all over the news, so I'll reflect on that for a second, that Biden did what I call a Hail Mary pass. What he put before the Supreme Court, he kind of knew in the long run wouldn't hold up, but it was one particular fight.
Right.
However, what I do see the federal government doing is coming up with some financial programs that will help stop the evictions. So effectively, it'll be funding for states and by the federal government to kind of help almost create effectively a moratorium still. And I see that up through the end of this year. So
right, and there's a bunch of money sitting in there that hasn't been used.
Right. So it doesn't worry me that the Supreme Court did not uphold Biden's claims because he actually almost expected it, but there will be another federal program based on money that's going to help stop evictions. Yeah.
Okay. What is the main root cause of Tourette's? Why have occurrences of it continued to increase over the years? And will there ever be an accessible cure for it?
All right, so Tourette's syndrome has been around for a long time, and it's kind of like electrical misfiring in the brain that causes random movements. But what I do see over the next 5 to 10 years here is pretty significant progress in utilizing a kind of advanced computer technology, artificial intelligence, and quantum computing to kind of analyze brain function and brain waves, and then coming up with devices that are electrically related that kind of rewire the brain a little bit. So yeah, I do see big progress over the next 5 to 10 years, because it's really understanding where that misfiring occurs. Yeah.
Okay. Will Putin be in power much longer? After Putin, will Russia turn away from their current policies towards America?
I see Putin's demise, if you will, almost completely in sync with 45s. So as a 45 progressively starts to slip out the door, so to speak, So I don't see more than another 18 months for Putin to be in power. And within 18 months, I feel like there's going to be a shift over there in Russia. And I do feel like the next party, the next person that comes in, has a more moderate stance, because he feels like he's got to work with the world, not just the US, but the world more effectively to kind of get Russia's goals across the line. So a little different approach that the next person is going to have. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, because just recently, well, just on the news, they said 96 countries have gathered together, including the United States, and gave a message to the Taliban. We better not see you doing, you better keep your word about us being able to retrieve people that are still in Afghanistan. You better be true to your word. So 96 countries. So if people turn on Putin too and say enough, well, you never know.
Yeah, well, I think that Putin he's lost a lot of his leverage around the world for various reasons. And, you know, his man 45 is, you know, doesn't have the same kind of power anymore. So it's all part of a whole backslide. But within 18 months, it looks to me like he'll be out.
And you know what I saw the Intel pulling out stacks and stacks of stuff on Putin. So all this stuff was put away because 45 didn't want it seen, and more information coming out on Putin.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, this is going to be good. Let's see. I have lived in a one-story home in a quiet suburb for most of my past 20 years. Shortly after moving in, I began to hear things at night. What I heard sounded like a party: voices, accent, music, glasses clinking. I could never hear specific words, just many voices. When I lifted my head off the pillow, it would go away. It drove me crazy. I'd look outside, nothing. I'm in the same house, but I haven't heard the party for years. What was that?
So I'm making the assertion up front here that this person already validated there's nothing physically going on around her. So this is all spiritual realm.
Having a party.
And, yeah. And when it's in the spiritual realm, that's very often the case of a number of friendly guides and people that knew each other that actually enjoyed that location. So you're actually hearing what is socializing and a bit of a party from the other side. There's a spiritual connection there. Now, when that goes away, just like a lot of parties move on, they move on somewhere else and they're doing something else. So nothing to be afraid of. But if that person looks back in history, there's probably something around that environment where there were groups of people that mingled or partied, and there's historical connection. Yeah.
It could even be called place memory, like a memory of something repeated, like good times. You know, I took care of a man that was dying of cancer. And towards the end, I'd have to walk down the hallway a ways because it was a rather large home to the refrigerator to get his medication. And I walked back. And as I'm walking back, I could literally hear people chattering in his room. It was so scary. I was scared to open the door and I'd just see a bunch of ghosts, but you could hear them talking amongst themselves.
It sounds like it might have been family members coming.
Oh yeah, he said to me later, before he died, he said, "Oh, Mama's here."
Right.
Mama's here. So he was so funny. He was dying of cancer. He was skin and bones. God love him. He was an engineer. And boy, he had this watch that just hung on him. And he'd say at 5 o'clock exactly, "Mother, it's cocktail hour." And they were the type smokers and cocktail people.
Funny. Yeah.
Okay, I noticed that Biden is getting hard all at once. Oh, getting hit hard all at once by the GOP, the Supreme Court, etc., using the Afghan crises, reversing back to Trump's southern border rules, reversing rent leniency, etc. Why?
Well, this is all part of what I call the yin and the yang of politics. So it goes in cycles, so that anytime something, say a short period of time is going bad for the opposite party, the other party is going to jump on it. So that's part of what you're saying. It's the yin and yang of politics, but it's going to go in cycles, as we were talking about. And even within a few months here, certainly by the end of this year, a lot of what happened, for example, around Supreme Court and around Afghanistan is going to look much better for Biden. So not a problem, just a cycle. Yeah.
Ted Cruz has been holding up confirmation for ambassadors and other senior officials in the administration that need full Senate confirmation. Will these positions finally be filled soon?
Yes, over the next 3 months. So these are, I guess, high-level cabinet positions for Biden that they're trying to get certified. What I get on that is that Cruz has been holding it up, some sort of a game he's playing. And I think and now if I remember here, it's something like a Russian pipeline deal or something. So he's playing a game with these confirmations, but inside of 3 months, those confirmations will go through. Yeah.
Okay, good. Will there be a lot of schools in the US that will shut down this school year due to any of the viruses?
Yes, but let me be specific, because I think whoever crafted that question was like, will there be a lot? I see pockets of schools that close due to outbreaks, like Delta outbreaks, where there may be a teacher or professor or some children. So I do see some pockets where schools might close down for a week or two, then open up again. So not just schools, but also universities. And that's really going to be done just to try to control the spread of the variant. So yeah, the answer is shutdowns in various pockets around the US. Yeah.
Okay, there was a teacher that showed up that had COVID, knew she had COVID, took her mask off and infected the whole class. Some people are just so cool.
Yeah.
What will happen to the Middle East over the next 20 years as countries move away from fossil fuels?
I see them moving significantly towards solar technology. So they're going to take a lot of the wealth they've developed over the years over petroleum and oil and move it more towards solar energy, solar power, solar batteries, solar vehicles. So they're going to move everything more towards solar green technology. They've seen the writing on the wall now for 10 years. So
Okay.
they are, yeah.
What will happen to the Middle East over the next 20 years as countries move away from fossil fuels?
I think we just did that question.
Oh, sorry.
That was an example of deja vu.
Okay, there will be a Canadian federal election this September 20th. Will the Liberals win?
I get yes, hands down, yes. And this was what was, I think, being termed like a rush election because they wanted to get it done at a time when things were going fairly well. I think Canada is now up to over 70% vaccination, but I do see Liberals doing well, and I do see Justin Trudeau staying in power, yeah.
Oh, you do?
Mm-hmm.
My good looking guy. I'm excited about Trudeau, Justin. I like him. It's not just because he's good looking.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't dig deep into Canadian politics, but it appears he's doing a good job and certainly trying to do a good job. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Will there indeed be a presidential crimes commission put into place?
Not officially the way that has been categorized. So, that was something, I think whoever asked the question, that was something that was Eric Swalwell or something had proposed. I do see what I'll call the equivalent of like a presidential crimes commission coming out of recommendations for the January 6th commission report, but not in the way it was proposed by Swalwell is what I'm getting. So a little different way it's going to be handled. Yeah.
Okay. The Saudis have successfully electrocuted clouds with drones and made it rain. How long before California can do this? I've never even heard this before.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the technology. So first off, that's being done worldwide. There's testing going on worldwide for that. Electrification of clouds with drones to produce or force rain. So, I mean, the answer to that is yes, that technology is going to be developed, approved over the next number of years here. Certainly California will be part of that. I think that was the question, will California get involved? However, that technology won't be a panacea for curing drought because the clouds have to be seeded. So they have to be holding a lot of water in order to be able to generate the water.
Right.
So the answer is yes. So the next number of years, and that electrification with drones is being done worldwide and tested worldwide. Yeah.
Cool. Do all our loved ones meet us when we cross over, or only the ones who haven't reincarnated?
Yeah, so that denotes the fact that if those individuals are still, if they're still on Earth and you pass over, those individuals won't be greeting you because they're not on the other side. That makes sense.
Mhm.
But your extended family members and all of your immediate family and your angels and guides and animals, pets and animals, will all be there to greet you. Yeah.
This is a good question. Why hasn't 45 attacked his niece, Mary? The first book she wrote about him and the family was a doozy, and I'm sure the second one will be just as wild. I also think she's going to win on her lawsuit, but he hasn't said anything about her.
What I get on that is his legal team told them to stand down. And
Okay.
because they told him to stand down because there is irrefutable evidence in those books that other family members could corroborate. So it's like, they put to look 45. If you go after points 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the book, but she's completely telling the truth, and the other family members corroborate it, you're just going to dig a bigger hole.
Right. And then in the trial, they'll show that he denied it again. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a good question. God, we got good question this time. And thank you to Linda and Dan. Are there more people than ever before in history becoming spiritually aware of their purpose on Earth in the 3D ? It seems a light switch was turned on last year because I have become much more aware of my spiritual side over the past year and a half. I am more interested in tarot and psychic readings, learning about my empathic skills and how I can serve my purpose here on Earth. And that's the truth. More clients that I read say, I don't know why, but I just feel like I'm supposed to be doing something.
Yeah, and this is all part of a gradual linear increase in everybody's awareness and the thinning of the veil to the other side. Okay. So, it reminds me, a lot of people talk about third density, fourth density, fifth density, and those are really ways of categorizing kind of the linear shift that everybody's going through as people become more aware, more sensitive, more aware, more connected. So I would also tell, I don't want people to get too distracted. Am I in third density, fourth density, fifth density? You're on an evolutionary path, and you're actually gradually increasing your skills and knowledge and ability to communicate with the other side and then do good work in the world. So yeah. Great,
that's great. Will any of the 9 lawyers in the Michigan case who have been referred to their home states bar associations be sanctioned or disbarred? Please say yes, please say yes.
Yeah, actually within the next 3-month period, I see a very swift movement towards disbarment. And actually, it's going to be very easy. These were the 9 lawyers that upheld the election fraud claims, that the election was fraud.
Sued on it, and they knew it was fraud.
Right, and in fact, what my guides are telling me, my angels, is it'll be very swift progress towards disbarment.
Good. Do you see anything coming up next week?
I see more strong movement in the January 6th commission. We'll see some announcements this week in terms of people subpoenaed and documents and strategy. I see that.
You guys heard it here.
Yeah, I also see more debate discussion around the Voting Rights Act. That's now moving into the Senate, if I remember correctly here now. I see more discussion around that. By the way, as a footnote, I don't see that overall Voting Rights Act fully passing until we get out into next year. So it's going to be batted around back and forth.
Like ants, people will refuse to let them deny. They'll do what they have to do. They'll do the dance they need to do to vote. But it'll be more of us than it will be of them. That's what I saw.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you have any information that your guides want to share?
Yeah, this week, very simple message as always. They want everybody to take at least 15 minutes a day to work on balancing yourself and talking with your guides and angels, because that 15 minutes you take, it doesn't have to be hard meditation. It's just a grounding. What that does is that'll help you and all the people around you and help you kind of push the goodwill forward in the world. So take out that 15 minutes a day to balance yourself. Yeah.
That's excellent. Excellent advice. I like your guides, my friend.
Well, you'll meet them someday when we're on the other
I
side.
hope
We'll
so.
all get together.
I mean, they must have brought us together, if you think about it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, you guys, it's been wonderful.
One quick footnote I always get asked, the best way to reach me for any kind of a session is just go to sterlingpsychicmedium.com and look for the book online tab. So very easy.
Okay, you guys got that here, and I'll be posting it in the bottom, and go to his YouTube channel too, which is Sterling.
Sterling Psychic Medium.
Yeah, you search it. Before, when you first started, I'd search and I couldn't find you, and now you're right there.
Exactly.
Brought
Yeah.
your numbers up so well.
Yeah, no, you were a big help in that area. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Well, you're worth it. Okay, you guys. Cheers.